Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. So today I'm joined by Neel Bhagwat and
Bhagwat.
Bhagwat, and
Yeah.
I met him in my coaching cohort when I'm learning how to become a coach, how to help people quit porn. Neel, on the other hand, is helping people lose body fat and become high performers and reach their goals. And yeah, man, if you want to explain it in more detail.
Yeah, bro. So essentially, what I do is I help busy professionals, working a strenuous 9 to 5 job, or people in school, or people working on a really intense entrepreneurial endeavor, lose 10 pounds of body fat in 60 days or less. And I essentially make the habits that allow weight loss to happen easier. So it doesn't feel like a chore.
Well, nice, man.
And especially if you're like in an intense environment, your diet's key for productivity. So I essentially, revamp your diet. They look at foods that help you with productivity as well.
Dang, that's great. And so, like, I guess what inspired you to help people in this dimension?
Yeah, bro. So if you look at myself in May or like December or like anytime last year, I was in a master's program. In addition to that, I was working like a part slash full time job, and I was just cope with instant gratification, like a lot of video games, weed, a lot of Chipotle. I'm talking about like 5 to 8 bowls of Chipotle a day.
Hmm,
It was that bad. And then I would find myself just like getting more takeout and binging even more while continuously playing video games and procrastinating my other shit. So I saw myself, especially in May, at like almost 200 pounds. That would be my almost height, like almost my weight in high school. Something I would never thought I'd ever reach before. And I committed to myself that maybe I'm not only going to have foods that will help me lose weight, but also making it easier and increase my productivity at the same time.
nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And like, what have you noticed to be like the most useful habit to implement into your life to decrease body fat and feel better about yourself?
That's a tough one. I think that, so for context, my program is centered around the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I wish I brought it with me. I don't have it on me. Otherwise, I'd be like showing it off.
Yeah,
The Atomic Habits essentially says like small changes lead to big transformations, becoming 1% better each day. I can't really pinpoint like a single thing I do that makes me feel proud of myself. Or, like one habit that really makes me feel like Peter Parker. I have like Eddie Brock and Peter Parker from like the Spider-Man trilogy
mm,
in my videos. Like the staple of my like the two characters that I really emphasize in my videos.
yeah.
I don't really have one habit that really makes me feel like a Peter Parker or a Spider-Man. I would say it's like the combination of all of them.
And what would all those be?
Diet, sleep, exercise, productivity, my mindset behind weight loss.
Nice. And what do you think it was like the hardest one for you to tackle?
Diet, 100%.
Like,
Because I've been going to the gym since November, at least 3 to 4 times a week consistently. But the thing that was really holding me back was diet for like the longest time. So I was going to the gym and I was putting on some muscle, but most of it was fat because my diet was so bad. So like I saw myself like on pecs like growing up. I saw my arms grow. I saw no abs because I was actually putting on body fat. I was kind of seeing my shoulders, my arms, my pecs, but that was like really it, and maybe my legs. But I was completely ignoring my stomach, my face, other parts that were growing in fat. So then my mom took graduation photos of me, like, when I graduated from the master's program. And yeah, I was just like, did I even go to the gym at all? And then I talked to my friend, and I don't know if he was also in the program, Medi.
mm,
Yeah, so I talked to Medi, and we kind of, we kind of synthesized like my diet's really the thing holding me back because Medi's also helping me with fitness coaching.
dang, nice. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, So, I'm trying to think. I also saw that you were talking quite a bit about swimming and also quite a lot about just consistency. And what do you feel like if you were to tell someone, like let's say someone came to you and was saying, "Yeah, I have X amount body fat that I'm wanting to get rid of." Like, what workouts would you tailor to them and what diets would you give them? Or is it kind of an individualized approach?
It's definitely individualized. I would say that I used to run cross country and track in high school. I mean, I actually quit after I got a stretch fracture. I was just like, screw this.
Mm,
I'm not doing this anymore. So I was telling myself, like, I hate the panting. I hate the when my heart can't catch up to my lungs. I hate that like internal feeling in my stomach where it's like, and then worst of all, I hated the stress fractures that I especially got because I did try to get back into it, like especially sophomore and junior year, and then I got stress fractures again. I'm like,
mm.
I screwed this. I'm really like screw this, and then I just coped with a lot of Chipotle. So I told myself like back in November, like I'm never getting into cardio again. I was actually in India, Singapore, and Malaysia this past like winter from December to January, and my aunt in Mumbai, like on the beach, there's like a giant pool that she has a membership for,
Mm.
and she just invited me one day, and I was just like, maybe I'll just go to screw around in the pool, just like take a few laps just for fun. I didn't really intend on it, and then I did 4 laps, and it didn't even feel like cardio. So then by the time I got to Singapore, I was consistently doing like 40, 60, 100 laps. And I didn't even feel like effort.
Dang,
So I
that's
just kind of
great.
like stuck to it. But I can imagine someone else because like I have friends that are like, oh, I could barely for some 4 laps, but they love to run.
Sure,
Like I've
sure.
seen them sprint, and I can never sprint as fast as them.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It's kind of like depends on the person, depends on what works for them.
Yeah, yeah.
You had the stress cracks, whereas other people might not. Or
Fractures.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And you know, that's interesting. Like I run quite a few triathlons, the swim, bike, run, but just to short distances because I would probably run into the same problem of the stress cracks. But
Yeah.
yeah, I find it's almost like I'm just trying to think about my own experience. It's like, or just from what I've heard, not there's not like one size fits all when it comes to diet, exercise, lifestyle approach. Normally, it's kind of like there can be similarities, but it's like everyone has a different set of genes, so they react to different types of food. Everyone has different length limbs, so they might be better at or worse at certain activities. Everyone might have different bone densities. It's just like there's all different kinds of factors. And sometimes I hear diet advice online or fitness advice online, but I'm like, I don't actually listen to it that much because it's like I like to do what works well for me from what I've found. And I don't know, I'm just trying to think like if you were to have a client, like how would you how would you determine what's best for them?
I would say it's actually funny that you mentioned genetics because there's actually a chapter in the book that covers genetics and
Oh
habits.
yeah.
And there's actually like 2 principles that I talk about in my like I'm actually releasing like very soon. I'm not going to tell you exactly when because I want to keep it a surprise, but I'm releasing a full length like hours long Atomic Habits guide in YouTube.
Heck yeah.
Like you can check it out on my channel. So what a better place to plug it in than here.
Perfect. Perfect.
So in this chapter, it's actually chapter 18 by the way. If you want to skip ahead in the book, if you ever get it, like James Clear talks about how genetics can predispose you to something, but it doesn't predetermine.
Hmm. I see what you're saying.
So what genetics does is it, like for instance, James Clear brings up the example of Michael Phelps versus there is a runner from like Uganda. I forgot what his name was,
Yeah, I
and
know what you're
their
saying.
body physique is suited for different
Oh
things, but they're
yeah.
still Olympians.
Oh, for sure.
So I would say there's really no one diet advice, although calories in, calories out is very key. And the second thing about genetics is if you want to find what sport you can really excel in and what sport you're predisposed for success, Like, I'm not saying this runner can't become a swimmer. It's just infinitely harder to.
Yeah.
If you want to find out what you're predisposed for, there's a thing called experiment and exploit. So in my program, I actually have my clients get like a Fitbit premium membership where they have a lot of like, different recipes that you can make
Oh,
and
sweet.
like 150 different workouts. So I'm gonna have my clients like mix and match different types of workouts. So that's something called the experiment phase, where they're really trying out what they're predisposed to succeed in. For me, it was swimming, where I was literally just intending to take a few dips in the pool, and it turned into an entire last like cardio workout, like a
Man,
long distance one.
that's great.
Yeah, I never intended it for it to happen, but in terms of exploiting what you're good at. So once you've really found something, like let's say for me it was swimming and also strength training, exploit the hell out of it.
That's great. And you're saying your clients have a membership to, you said Fitbit or like Fitbit Premium?
Fitbit Premium.
Yeah. And so that helps them track calories, that helps them track their workouts, it helps them track food. I don't even fully know what that is.
Yeah, not just calories, but your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Your there's like different health metrics that it tracks. Don't. I actually have to just do a finances cancel Fitbit Premium for the time being. I actually got the other app called Lose It Premium, which is a little bit cheaper.
Mm,
But obviously, when I ramp up my coaching program, I'm going to get Fitbit Premium like with my clients again.
nice. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It essentially measures your sleep quality, like how much you spend in deep sleep, how much you spend in REM sleep. It measures your other health metrics, like your overall heart rate, whether it's supposed like it's normal and in range, what have you.
Sure.
There's a lot that I could describe.
That's awesome. Yeah, like if you were to choose like a favorite quote or a favorite concept from Atomic Habits, what would it be?
There's a lot. That's a hard question. I guess it's not like one quote,
Mm,
but it's the theme of the book. Small changes lead to big transformations.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like you might not always like, let's say someone's trying to learn how to do something, even if they're becoming even a half a percent better than yesterday, it's like it might seem so small, but it's like time zooms by, and if you just kept that going, you're going to be exponentially way farther than you would have been if you never started taking those small changes. And it's like you can't
Yep.
expect to make a huge change in one day. That'd be exhausting and not practical. It's so much better to like choose like three or four small things that you can start doing on a regular daily basis, and then just see yourself just explode with growth. And I love that concept, because then it doesn't make someone feel as fearful, like, oh, I have to take a huge change. It's like, nope, you actually have to make two or three
Small
small
changes.
tiny changes that really don't disrupt your day too much and add a lot to your day in some sense.
Yep. That's very important. And funny that you said that, because there's actually a concept that James Clear describes called the valley of disappointment. So
Mm,
for all the viewers that are like aren't mathy, exponential growth is essentially growth of bills off of each other. So when you grow 1% every day, the amount you actually grow each day increases because it compounds, and so for today it compounds. 1% of 100 is 101.
yep.
1% of 101 is 102.1,
Yep.
and so on. So the
Exactly.
growth actually increases. The amount of growth increases every day, but you're not going to see that initially. So it's going to be like, if it's going to start flat and it's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Now, what people expect growth to be is linear trend.
Oh, for sure.
So between this linear trend that's like the expected growth from someone, like so it's the growth like someone expects to have, or like any skill, any habit, what have you. This is kind of like abstract, and the actual exponential curve. I don't want to get too mathy here,
Do it.
but difference between the difference between or the difference between those two curves, like the actual growth versus the expected growth, is called the valley of disappointment.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and like the area between those two curves is like the amount of disappointment you have to face.
Dang, that's true. And
Yeah.
it really applies to people like us who are trying out something new where it comes to a coaching program or creating content or putting ourselves online. And it's like, you might see the growth is this or maybe even negative at times. And it's just kind of like, it can be
Hmm.
defeating and it can be disappointing. But it's like, in reading that book, it's like, well, I don't know. It's like the classic phrase, this is where most people stop. They see not much progress, so they give up. So it's like, if we're people that are consistent, we can get past 90% of other people who give up in the first 2 months, you know what I mean? Or first 2 days. And so I guess that's just kind of a view of optimism from what I can tell, which is like that curve of disappointment or just that flat line. Sure, it seems so disappointing and kind of like, oh, this is unfortunate, but it's like, to me, I actually find it to be a great, like, what's the right word, it selects against a lot of people so that there's less competition out there. Like, because if something was so easy, everyone would do it and it just wouldn't be worth it. But like things that are hard, that take a lot of time, now you're going to be, you'll there might only be like 20, 30 people doing what you're doing versus billions, you know what I'm saying? So I find it to be awesome when it comes to like, I'm going to be different than most people and I'm just going to keep pushing even if I see negative growth, because I know math, I know exponential curves, and I know that once it starts taking off, everyone's going to be like, oh, lucky him, and it's like, nope, they didn't see that flat line for years. So
Yep. So there's actually two terms I kind of like. Well, I and like other YouTubers I've watched kind of coined. James Clear did not coin this. I kind of like coined this in my Atomic Habits guide. It's called the Great Filter and Breaking the Dam. So when you put pressure on a
mm,
dam for long enough, it'll eventually break, and that exponential growth when you actually shoot up in success is called breaking the dam. And the people that actually break the dam, or the the filter on the people that are actually able to put pressure on the dam is called the Great Filter. So the people that are able to walk the Great Filter, go through the Great Filter, are able to break the dam in success. Those are two kind of like terms I also coined.
sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's like, you have to just consistently keep smashing into the dam or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
analogy is, because one day it's going to bust open. But it's like some people just run into it 2 or 3 times in a row and they're like, this is just so dumb. It's not worth it. And
Yeah.
I give up and I don't want to do that. And sometimes you just have to keep pushing, even if, you know, people around you are saying, oh, stop. Or if your mind is saying, oh, give up. So yeah, I love this book because it's like, it just highlights the importance of being consistent no matter what, no matter your mood, no matter your current life scenario. Life doesn't care if your dog died. Life doesn't care if you are feeling sleepy or didn't get enough sleep. No one cares. You just have to keep posting. You just have to keep trying. And this has to do with like pretty much anything in life. And so I really do appreciate this book a lot. So yeah.
Oh yeah, this book was a lifesaver.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of some other like interesting uh, quotes. This one I kind of like a lot. It's called "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems," which is like, you,
Yes.
yeah, you can have
Yes.
any goal you want, but if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have the systems and steps to get there,
Yeah.
it's all just a dream.
There is a really good example in that book, the first chapter that James Clear gave about the UK cycling team.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you heard about.
yeah,
You remember that? Yeah. So it's not. It's the small changes that this. I forgot his name. That
mm,
this, the person who was hired to coach the team. It's the small changes he implemented, like the quality of the cycles, the sleep of the players, the diet, the productivity, the
mm-hmm.
discipline.
The
It's just like
bus.
subtle things in their training routine got them from being like a total letdown, where like the UK was almost about, like, I think before like 2007 or something like that, they were almost about to divest from the cycling team, like withdraw from like the Olympics. And a year later, they were now like winning like everything.
Yeah, it's really really cool, and it kind of just, I run a business and I go to school for, it's called like industrial systems engineering. It's like how to build systems and engineer systems within businesses, like to make the business profitable, how to create processes. And so it's like, I feel like the same, what's the right word? The same principles apply to anything in life, where it's like, if you're trying to become a really great writer or like become a successful author, you can't just wish it. You have to build that system. So it's like James Clear might say, make the habit easy and have the damn notebook right in front of your door so that you actually can't exit your room unless you pick up the notebook and start jotting down. Or, it's not the greatest example, but it's like, if you're able to just put roadblocks in your way where it's like, oh, I got to do this habit that's going to get me to that goal. And you just keep running into it. You keep seeing a note, you keep seeing the reminder, you're actually going to be able to do it. And it's like, and then you'll be able to have it stack, as he likes to say, like, oh, as soon as you do this, you do this. And I don't know, like, it's just, that's what I've kind of tried to design for my podcast, for this coaching business, for my mom's cleaning business, for my school projects. I try to be very just, oh, as soon as I do this, I get it done. And so it's like, and then I hire other people to do other parts so that I don't have to think about it. And like the system is building my dreams. It's not just my goals. It's not just my wishes. I'm going to think of a system, and the system, of course, gets updated 1% every day, because it didn't start very good.
Another thing to add on to that is if you achieve a goal today, like if you were handing down your goal on a silver plate, like you became an Olympian, or if I became better than Michael Phelps today, I probably wouldn't last very long, or I'd probably get injured or something like that. You would
Yeah.
lose the success as fast as you got it. Like this is something that Mehdi told me as well.
Mm.
You always lose the success you get as fast as you take to gain it. Or I hope I said that right. The amount of times it takes to lose your success is the same amount of time it took you to gain your success. If you take longer to gain success, you had more time to change your systems in place. That means it's more sustainable success.
Yeah, that's really well said.
That's what that's what the book didn't really mention, but it's like my spin on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's where it's like this idea of like a one-hit wonder. Maybe they didn't really have any systems and they exploded that one time, but they hadn't prepared. They didn't have a way to like funnel that money into an LLC, or they weren't prepared on how to financially maneuver through this scenario. They weren't aware of all the people that would try to become friends with them. I don't know. It's just like I totally like what you're saying, where it's like the slow growth gives you that time to truly reinvent your systems daily and kind of just, cement them into something better each day. And yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, bro. I don't know if you heard of like lottery winners just losing all their fortunes and becoming homeless, or people in Vegas like making like millions off of like gambling and then they lose everything.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly the same idea. Yeah. And yeah, like to add some more math, I'm kind of math minded too. You were talking about how like,
oh, nice.
Yeah, like engineering, and how each time the next day the curve is slightly increased at a slightly smaller rate, and slightly more, and it's like if you improve 1% every day at that compounding interest rate, which is like 1 plus I over n to the r or whatever, like you'll become 37% better, which is like, that's like that's like adding a third of yourself.
3,700.
Okay, there we go. 3,700.
3,700 by year.
Fair enough. It's like,
yeah,
that's kind of like inconceivable, the amount of, growth that you can have. But like, you see all kinds of people who are like, so what's new? And they're like, nothing much, same old. And it's like, you're living in the world where compound interest exists and small habits can be built daily. How are you still the same? What the heck is wrong? I'm not trying to talk down. I'm just like, aren't you super interested in just being better each day? But I don't know if you know people like that.
kind of. I guess South Asian parents are kind of like that as well, or they're more so kind of like result oriented. Like they don't believe in exponential growth. They're like, you have to be better. Like you have to be not 1%, but you have to grow at like a steady rate, or you already have to like, be successful.
Sure. I see what you're saying. Hmm. Like, what got you interested in Atomic Habits to begin with? Like, had you heard about it? Like, did someone like sell you on the idea
I
of
have.
reading it?
I heard it from the YouTuber Hamza.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah, yeah. He did a like a kind of a short length guide. He kind of like summarized the book, like the four laws of behavior change, the four. Well, he actually said there's five steps in the habit loop: cue, craving, reward, response. Or sorry, cue, craving, response, reward, and then consequence.
Yeah.
I kind of read the book and I said, like, what if I did a guide where I actually make it in detail? Like, I detailed everything that James Clear said.
Dang, that's great.
So I was kind of like inspired by that, and then the guide is like after like, oh, I read this book. Like, this is actually a really cool guide I can make.
Hmm. That's awesome. And oh yeah, also the importance of identity. When it's like, I want to identify as
Yes.
a growth-minded person who's continuously improving and continuously striving for more. It's like, if you identify, or like identify as, a successful coach, well, that those habits will build that identity, and I think identity is really
Yep.
crucial. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. So James Clear, and I love that he said like this is actually kind of answers a previous question. Like, what is one of the best things you ever heard,
Mm,
or one of the best things you've heard in this book? I think that outcome based habits, we always try to achieve habits to achieve a certain outcome. Like, oh yeah, like in I'm gonna beat this person in bench press, but we don't really develop habits to develop a certain identity, or we don't develop habits to support a certain identity. So
mm-hmm.
there's something called like the habits bullseye, where it's outcome, habits, identity, where the outcome is in the center of the bull, like the target.
Mm,
We first start with the center. We focus like, oh yeah, I'm first focusing the outcome. Like, I'm just gonna do whatever it takes to get the outcome, and then based on the outcome, once I get the outcome, then I can build the habits and then achieve a certain identity. James Clear talks about the importance of starting with a certain identity. Like when May, I didn't read the book back. I recently read the book, but in May, I kind of adopted that mindset where it's like, I'm gonna pretend like I'm already jacked,
yes.
even though I was still extremely like fat. I'm gonna pretend what I'm like that I'm already like just pretend it. Like, I would look at my body fat in the mirror and just see myself as this jacked person, even though I actually in reality I was still like had a lot to weight to lose, or a lot of body fat to lose, should I say? And then I said, what are the habits of someone who's jacked, or what are the habits of something I could do to
Oh, for sure.
maintain that physique? So I wasn't even trying to lose weight. I was just pretending I was maintaining my weight.
Dang, that's
And I just cared
interesting.
about the swim. I just cared about the diet. And I lost weight.
Dang, that's great, man.
So that was like the outcome.
Man, sweet.
Thanks, bro.
That's really cool. And let's see here. Do you track your progress? Like, I remember James Clear talking about how like you monitor habits helps the motivation. Like, I'm sure there's ways you might track some of
I
your habits.
journal.
Okay, yeah. What do you journal
I
about?
journal. I essentially journal like when I have a relapse. I was like, oh, I relapsed in diet today. But like, here's why.
Mm,
Here's what I can do tomorrow to like not relapse again.
I see. Dang, interesting. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, like, in the quitting porn dimension, same kind of idea
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, if you identify as someone who doesn't watch porn, you then can take on the attributes of someone who doesn't watch, whether that's bringing it up in conversation as saying like, I don't watch, or if someone asks you what's your favorite porn star, you say, oh, that's not my thing, I don't watch. Or it's what else could be great attributes of a person who doesn't watch porn? It could be someone that, well, asks other people how that is going for them, or like, I don't know, it's a person who has accountability circles and talks about it. It's a person who's set up their life in a way that they can be open about their struggles. It's like, if you're just a person who's trying to quit cigarettes, trying to quit jerking off, it's like, just having that goal is not going to get you there. You need to Figure out what identity that is.
Pretend.
Yeah, pretend like you already did it, and then take the steps to reach that. And once you've tricked your mind into doing it, it's really not that hard. It's just a matter of that little bit of consistency that we keep talking about. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're essentially imagining yourself like, what if I was that person and when I relapse, it's not like I haven't done it yet. I've already done it, but I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when I'm playing a sport or competitive or anything competitive, I make a mistake and like I get overtaken or I get upset. It's like, oh, I made a mistake, but I'm actually really good. Even though it may not be an upset. It could be like the other team is better. The fact that I still lost, like I can pretend that like it's an upset. And James Clear actually gave the example of like cigarettes, where it's like, oh, I don't think he mentioned about relapses, but he definitely mentioned about the identity of someone who is quitting cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, that was actually weed, where like every time I had a relapse, I'd like be like, oh, I'm just gonna quit because like I first of all I didn't even like I tried to trick my mind like not even enjoying it in the first place because I'd wake up like kind of like high hungover.
Yeah.
And the other thing was like, oh, I'm someone who doesn't do this anymore, but I just made a mistake.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
Yeah. Instead of, oh, I'm still trying to quit. Yeah.
yeah,
Because then it's kind of like you almost give yourself permission to keep failing because, oh, I'm trying.
yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to quit, but I haven't done it yet. I haven't quit because I just did it. But it's also important to note that your habits also reinforce your identity. So if you make too many mistakes, it could be like,
Oh.
oh, maybe I'm actually just not that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
So you want to make your mistakes minimal. There is like, oh, I made a mistake, but I'm actually this identity, so I'm going to not make this mistake again. And here's what I can do to not make this mistake again. And every mistake you get is a learning process, but as long as you learn something out of that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, what's your daily routine look like when it comes to your habits? Like, what do you do when you wake up? Do you have like a, do you, yeah, what's your daily system?
I'm not 100% perfect because like, there are things that usually do happen in the morning. Like, especially, I wake up and like there's something my mom wants or some other stuff in life
For
happens.
sure.
So like I'm still working on it. Actually, should I say I am perfect, but I still make mistakes and I learn from them.
Or at least
My
you're
ideal
growing.
routine,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is like my ideal day, or the routine that I have the identity of is someone who wakes up, journals, takes my dog out, goes for a workout, comes back, eats, grinds on YouTube videos, makes content, sends out blogs for my coaching program, and then like goes to bed. And then maybe like a few hours of leisure once I have time and like once I can outsource my tasks.
Nice. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I think the getting outside, the exercise, the diet,
Yep, the
the
swimming.
business. Yeah, those are all great. Like my this podcast kind of covers three main pillars. It's like I kind of see it as like topics that I feel like men really need to hear. First pillar being
Mm,
the character development, philosophy, personal growth, etc. Secondly, being health and fitness. Without a strong mind and body, you're not even really going to get very far in life. Thirdly, financial literacy, business systems, etc. So it's like, I feel like if you can design your day and have each one of those pillars being an anchor, I feel like you're going to
mm,
be a high value man that achieves many goals in the philosophy, religion, self development category, the health and fitness category, and the business growth category. And so it's like if you're able to design your day that fits this well rounded lifestyle, I think you're going to just do so great in life. Whereas so many people neglect one, two, or three of those pillars and they no longer, well, they're no longer much of a man. So, yeah, man.
Funny that you said that because I actually was drawn to this podcast because of the relationship between fitness and porn. And I kind of realized that fitness, I'm like, especially from my eras of like, looking at people's Facebook profiles, I'm like, oh, like, my lust got to me. Like, I didn't watch porn, luckily, but I could see how someone who's watching porn, like, this is kind of what am I saying? This is kind of how I kind of like stopped doing that. Was I replaced Facebook binges and looking at people's profiles and oh my god, I want to attract this person
Mm.
to I'm going to work at the gym. Like, I think fitness kind of complements the other parts of your body. It's like when I started going to the gym, like that was the first thing I got, or the first thing that really kickstarted my other pillars of life.
Mm, yeah,
So now that I've like kind of gotten fitness locked or mostly locked down, I'm gonna, I have the identity of someone has fitness locked down.
there we go.
Now I'm working in building the identity of someone who has other pillars locked down.
Nice. Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
That's cool to get one of those kind of checked off, not in the sense that you're done with it, but in the sense that it's like it's built into your day no matter what.
Hmm.
And then, like, of course, adding a small habit to become more well versed in business. It seems like joining this program is a great strategy to do that. And then for the, you know, I don't know, religion's very complicated, but I think just having deep discussions with the people you're around and keeping those family and friend connections, that's like a
Hmm.
third pillar in my opinion, like keeping those deep relationships around. So yeah, like my goal here with this whole thing is to like learn more about different people, learn more about myself, but kind of ultimately inspire people because it's like, I feel like so many people are weak these days. They don't want to go and try very hard. It's like life just so easy and they could just scroll on social media, lay in bed and do nothing and get paid unemployment or have their parents pay for their life and just there's so many people that are just not excelling and who knows what this kind of conversation or what any conversation online could have in an impact with someone. So it's like I
Yeah.
I hope that these kind of conversations inspire people because they really inspire me. Each podcast I do, I'm like, dang, that was awesome. I had no idea about this. Now I learned a little bit more about it. I formed a deep relationship with someone somewhat. It's kind of deep. It's not in person, but it's pretty good. And yeah, so like, yeah,
Yeah, bro.
I find it really cool. But I was gonna maybe ask about you say that you recently quit your job and you've been trying to
I did, yeah.
grind your coaching program and whatnot. How has that quitting of the job been? Like to your mental health, to your coaching growth?
I would say that quitting my job because I knew what I wanted to do. Like you need a reason to do that. Um, so like obviously like I wouldn't just quit my job like oh yeah I'll just like look I'll just do whatever. Like you need a purpose of why you're quitting your job. And I quit my job recently. Like it's not because I wanted to focus more on just like doing other stuff in life. It's not like I want to be complacent.
Mm,
It's funny that you said like people are weak. I wouldn't say people are weak. They're actually more so complacent
mm,
because I don't think strength. After I read this book, and it's kind of like a side tangent to the question, but strength isn't actually real because being strong is not really like a choice we can make. It's something we just condition ourselves to. It's like kind of a skill.
mm,
So like wanting to be strong isn't necessarily a period of like innate ability. It's just more so like a habit we build.
hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess it depends on what you mean by strong. Like, I guess just having the mental toughness to do what's hard and do what's uncomfortable in some sense, which I guess is what you're saying.
Even toughness is a skill
Yeah,
or a habit we can build.
yeah,
Yeah, but as to the job question, yeah, I just wanted to like throw it out there.
yeah. That's
Like I would
interesting.
say more complacent, where it's like they're conditioned into being satisfied with their life. It's not like they're weak.
Sure.
Like yeah, like you could say that. I guess both of us, if we were both addicted to like lust and like for me it was junk food and just
Mm,
sedentary lifestyle, you could say I was weak like a year ago,
mm,
but I really wasn't weak because I had the ability to
mm,
change.
mm. You were
It's just that
complacent,
like that those life
comfortable.
starts. Yeah, I was complacent or comfy.
Hmm.
Sorry, that was just a side tangent. I just like had to mention that.
No, that's
But as
interesting.
to the job situation, it's kind of like my job made me complacent, where it's like, oh, I'm fine with money.
Mm,
I'm fine with having no stable source of income. I'm fine with, just working a job and I can just keep on doing the same things I'm doing in my coaching business. I don't have to change my tactics. I don't have to level up my content, spend more time on my own fitness journey
Yeah.
because I already have a stable source of income. So I can just like, I don't know, get some extra supplements or something and not put in the work.
Yeah.
But after I quit my job, it's more so like, oh no, and now I need to work something out.
Yeah. That's awesome. That urgency that most
Mm-hmm.
people probably wouldn't want to do that. They would be like, take the safe route, Neil. Take the route that is comfortable. Why would you push yourself into a
My
position
parents,
of uncomfortability? And it's like, bro, we're both young. You might as well be uncomfortable now and push through this, the dang dam. And
yeah,
instead of just taking that route that's easier in the short term, but like in the long term, you're gonna regret not leveling up your business. You know what I mean? So yeah, honestly, kind of
especially in your
props.
20s. I mean, how old are you right now?
I'm 22. What about you?
Oh, I wish I was your age and doing this right now because I'm already in my mid 20s where I have a little bit less time. Where I'm 24, by the way. I'm I have a little bit less time than you to kind of like work, like experiment with my business because once we get into our 30s and 40s, things are like a little bit more solidified,
Sure.
and it's just I made a video like a few months ago. It wasn't as good as the videos I make now, but just throwing out there. But I said your 20s should essentially just suck. Like your 20s should not be like the time of your life in the sense like, oh, this is the most fun you have. The fun you have is your 30s and 40s. But your 20s are like where you're building up the systems, like you said, to have fun or like to have fun or even like, kind of enjoy the fruits of your labor
Sure.
as your life goes on. And like this is the prime age to do this. Like it's where we take risks to where we're better off in our 30s and 40s. It's not to say like we can't work hard in our 30s and 40s and beyond that, but this is the prime age to like take the risks to where if we're 30 and 40 and it doesn't work out, we would still have something to fall on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I hear like Naval Ravikant. You probably know who that is a little bit, but maybe.
Yes, Hamza mentioned him.
Yeah, he's really great. Like his three pillars are kind of like health, wealth, and happiness, and how like you can almost train yourself to be happy, and you can train yourself to be good at business, and you can train yourself to be good at relationships. I feel like if even if you're in your 20s and you're working hard at your business and working hard at your pillars, you then can become somewhat good at being happy in some sense. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
like if you're able to build, let's say you etch in 30 minutes of time that's really enjoyable to you in your 20s, you can squeeze in 30 minutes of time for fun. And it's like, or even an hour, So it's like, in my opinion, I don't think your 20s should be just hell. I think you should be grinding and really improving. But I also think that you have to almost work hard and play hard at the same time for you to continue to be rejuvenated. Otherwise, you might just be burnt out if you're just grinding and just grinding. So I'm a huge fan of
Mm-hmm.
like I take like a on the weekends I work a little bit, but I pretty much try to enjoy the time with the people I like, or doing hobbies, or just saunaing, or I don't know, journaling, which I guess could be classified as work. But I think you can have a pretty balanced life in your 20s, even when you're still building a lot of systems. But I'm not sure what you think.
I think that I don't know if you've heard of monk mode.
Yeah.
So there's times I think that especially where like I'm now without a job right now, so I'm like I kind of have to be in monk mode at the
Oh,
moment,
sure, sure.
where it's like I have to be focused on the business. For like the past few weeks, I've been really focused on the building this Atomic Habits guide. So like I have to be, there's periods of life where like you're grinding, but there's also periods in my life where like a little bit more lax, but I'm still making sure I'm tending my business. So I've been toggling between monk mode and not monk mode. And I think that a lot of people have gotten monk mode for like 6 months to a year. I think that could be excessive unless you like need it.
Mm.
I think like I said before, the Atomic Habits chapter 8, like how like genetics plays a part.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's up to you and how much you can handle. So for me, I can handle like maybe like a week or two at a time.
Sure. That's interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
And monk mode is definitely different for others. Like for instance, some people consider journaling as like part of monk mode. Others consider like, oh, I'm only going to consider like work.
Okay, yeah.
I'm only going to work on the business and like no time for meditation, no time for journaling, even like seemingly good habits, no time for that as well.
Hmm.
I can't do that. I still need some time to like relax, even during monk mode, where I'm just like just sit staring at a wall and like doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Who would you say are like your biggest motivations? People in your life or people that you don't necessarily know but look up to?
I would say like Hamza Ahmed is pretty good, pretty up there. Mehdi's up there as well. My friend Paris, he's in med school.
Hmm.
He's also pretty up there as well. His challenger's Excalibur Medicine.
Hmm. Interesting.
So I mean, the three of them kind of like motivate me a lot.
Nice, man. That's good. It's good to have a circle of people that motivate you. And yeah, like what's your goals for the end of the year when it comes to your coaching business specifically?
I hope to build my first cohort of at least 5 clients. I have this deal called Get Ready for Cuffing Season because cuffing season is coming up by the end of the year.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, if you want to get in shape for cuffing season.
There we go. Let's do it. So yeah, man, that's awesome. Do you have anything else you want to mention before we call it a day?
Yeah, bro. I mean, my best advice is like take up this book.
Mm.
And I kind of read it to make this guide, so I kind of like read everything. So I'm still working and implementing the different things in the book,
Yeah.
or like implementing them with intention. But my intention is, especially if you're not a YouTuber, if you're not gonna make content about this book, is to pick up the book and kind of just like implement chapter by chapter. So this should take at least like I would say an ideal time to finish the book is like 6 months to a year.
Mm.
This should not be like a main read. This should definitely be like a side read, where like read a little bit every day.
Sure.
Just like how James Clear said.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I think my two favorite books when it comes to like productivity and business might be Atomic Habits and then The 4 Hour Work Week. The combination of kind of both of those so that you build systems and create habits so that you can get to a point where the business runs itself in a lot of ways and you
Mhm.
you just have time for the most beautiful parts of life, relationships, kids, family, friends, those kind of things. And so I think using both those books, I've been like trying to just build my life in that kind of way.
What about Deep Work by Cal Newport? That's
Oh,
also a really good complement to
I need to still
this book.
read it, so that might be the one that adds in as well.
Yeah, especially it teaches you how to be in a like so. Chapter 19 of Atomic Habits talks about a flow state. Deep Work is kind of like chapter 19 but magnified.
Oh, okay. I will
So if you put a
definitely check.
magnifying glass in chapter 19,
Dang, nice. That's awesome. I love that.
that's Deep Work.
Dang. But yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna plug
Yeah,
all
no worries, bro.
your YouTube, your Instagram, and if your guide comes out by, I think this episode might drop in like 3 to 4 weeks. If your guide is out, I'll make sure to plug that as well, or maybe we could kind of time it at the
It's
same
definitely
time.
coming out in 3 or 4 weeks.
Sweet,
I'm working my editor right now. It's all
sweet,
everything's filmed. It's being edited at the moment.
sweet, man. Yeah, I'd be glad to kind of collab with you on kind of when this drops. So yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I already filmed everything, but when like I'm definitely gonna make like follow-up videos to this. So I definitely would like to include people on my YouTube channel. I've done that in the past,
Sounds great,
but
man.
I definitely do intend to do it in the future. Just let me know.
Will do.